Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Welcome to University Challenged.
I'm very excited to meet you. I'm quite a fan of yours, you know.
Oh, likewise. Like we just have a love-in.
Look, I even brought
Um,
a prop. Your
did you?
book that I,
Oh,
your book,
oh,
Reasons to be Cheerful, Part One. As you know,
oh.
I took it to California with me.
See, now I am properly like touched. Thank you.
See how I warm you up.
I know. It's been more places than I have, I tell you. Um, so, as people might be able to judge, we've never met in person. We've met
No.
via LinkedIn.
Yes.
Know a bit about each other, but for the listeners today and the listeners to come, could you please introduce yourself and what it is that you do today?
Yes, so I'm Joanna Hughes, or Jo, and I'm the founder and director of Joanna Hughes Solicitor Apprenticeships, through which I act as an advocate for the solicitor apprenticeship route into the legal profession, and especially into private practice and in-house City of London roles. At the moment, about 95% of my time is consumed in a good way with the City of London Law Society City Century collaboration. But we come on to that later, maybe.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And well, I'm excited because this is the very first time we've talked about solicitor apprenticeships
Ooh.
on the podcast.
Mm.
But before we get on to those apprentices, tell me about your memories of secondary school.
Ah, okay. So, accent bias is a funny thing. You listen to me now, people think she might be like a posh person. I'm not, and I wasn't. And I went to a comprehensive school in Ipswich, which I actually I Googled last night. It's the only bit of prep I've done for today. I Googled it, and in Wikipedia's tactful phrasing, Westbourne Comprehensive has been known by many names before it was closed down, which is actually really sad. So it
Yeah.
was converted into a sports college, and then most recently the sixth form element was closed completely, and the rest of the school luckily has been academised.
Ah,
Yeah, like lots of comprehensive schools. Um, it wasn't easy. I had to teach myself my A levels. Luckily, there was a dude who was taking exactly the same A levels as me. He was super bright, and he went on to be a very successful journalist, actually. So we sort of clung to each other, um, definitely just metaphorically.
yeah.
If his wife's listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what subjects did you study before we get to A levels? What did you do at GCSE? And what was it? So, did you enjoy school? I guess it is a question as well.
Well, I think, you know, I was what they called then a swot and a nerd. I was
Mm,
picked on a bit,
yeah,
which I wouldn't say put it as high as bullied, but I was a bit
no.
different because I've always spoken a bit like this, weirdly, even though the rest of
Mm,
my family don't. So I'm a real cuckoo in the nest. So yeah, I was
mm,
picked on a bit, but I just kind of kept my head down and just worked because I think I was just keen to escape what was around me.
yeah.
Yeah, so GCSEs, God, I can hardly even remember. There's not much choice at your average comprehensive, so I just did
Mm,
what I was told to do. And I feel really passionately, one of my many passions about careers, education
mm,
in state schools, because I chose, I didn't have any network to advise me. So I
yeah.
wasn't just you know, um, school or parents or friends. No one could really tell me what A levels I should do to be a solicitor, which I kind of knew I wanted to be then. So I
Yeah.
did hilariously French, that's okay, sociology, sort of okay, and drama studies,
Yeah.
maybe not accepted by all universities. Yeah, so luckily somebody said to me, Jo, you've got to switch out of that, and so I did English instead. But that's why we need careers education super early on, because
Mm.
whichever route you're going to do, traditional university or other ways of attending university through apprenticeships, you need good advice early on. Sorry, I'll get down off my soapbox.
No, I'm interested though in something that you had to say there about there is that sort of lack of advice, lack of people that have gone before. It was very similar for me. How did you know what a solicitor was and that you wanted to be one?
So I had absolutely no idea what they did. I'd always been called a chatterbox or mouthy
Yeah.
or similar versions of that. And I suppose I'd just seen something on TV and thought, oh, I'm quite good at arguing. I'll be a solicitor. I had no idea what it was.
Oh, that's really interesting because one of my nicknames at school was Mouth of the South.
Here
Maybe I
we go. We
went
were
down the
born
wrong
to be
route.
friends, Tony.
Um, and so you've done you've chosen your A levels, chosen the correct ones, and we'll come on to this too. So you did go on to university.
Yeah.
However, what you do today helps people who cannot or don't want to
Yeah,
go.
correct.
Um, what was your experience of uni life? What was it like?
Well, in the early days, it was slightly terrifying because I was surrounded by people with huge amounts of social and cultural capital. I just didn't really know what I was doing. My nickname, I think, was Tractor Girl because I'm from Suffolk. Actually, I didn't
Yeah,
mention that. I'm from Ipswich originally, which is like a real area of deprivation, sadly. So
yeah.
I had, yeah, everyone knew I was from Suffolk. But I have got really, really, really good friends now. So
Yeah.
don't feel too sorry for me, Tony. I'm okay.
It's I mean I'm intrigued by that though because something that I hear a lot about and having not gone to university I've experienced feeling out of my depth or different in the corporate environment. But I sort of follow what the 93% Club do and what they advocate
Yeah.
for. So I'm
Brilliant,
interested to
Sophie.
understand. Yeah, is that a typical kind of experience, as you say, if you went to a normal comp, um, you know, let's say back in the day before uh, all of us were supposed to be going to uni, was it quite a cultural
Yes,
difference?
I would say it is actually. And so with my background, I probably wouldn't have gone to university if I back in the day we got
Mm.
full grants if we were from
Yeah,
low income back. So there was no student loan. There was obviously mum and dad couldn't pay. Um, and so yeah, actually it should make it less rare that there were people from low income backgrounds there.
yeah,
But yeah, I know. But that stopped quite soon, didn't it? And those loans, and I'm actually good friends with Sophie Pender now, the
mm.
founder of the 93% Club, and she's like a good 20 years younger than me, and
Mm.
it's still a thing. So yeah, I think it
Yeah,
is, but I'm still hopeful that times will change,
mm.
or that people just don't need to go to university because there are better ways to do things.
Yeah, yeah,
See
and
how I keep trying to segue, Tony, but I'm going to stay
we'll
with
get
your
there.
plan.
You keep saying things that are interesting to me, and to the listeners, I'm sure. Could you offer an example? And again, I think it is that when you are used to your experiences, like I went through corporate life, I had all these experiences, and I thought, oh, that's just, how it was for me. And then you realize actually lots of people have experienced situations where they felt they didn't have the right tone of voice, or they didn't use the right words, or they hadn't seen the right plays, or they didn't like the right
Yeah.
music. How might that manifest itself in a university environment?
Yeah. Well, I think something that always sticks with me was when, um, so even at university, actually, I was still kind of quite nerdy and I was still winning prizes for coming top and all that kind of thing. And I won a prize. I won a prize. I mean, it's sorry to any law firms listening. It's not the best law prize. It was a prize to go and work in a law firm, work experience in Brussels. But it's hard to get work experience. So it was an okay prize. But I'd never been
Yeah,
on a plane before because my family didn't go on holidays that use
yeah,
planes. So
yeah,
as a 22-year-old woman, I'd never been on a plane before, and I just mentioned this, and hoots of laughter. What the flip? You've never been on a plane,
wow,
and I just felt really stupid. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's well, it illustrates it perfectly well. And so good that you had. Did you continue to study French at? at uni? Was it
Yeah,
a
I
law
did
with
law and French
languages?
law,
Oh,
and it was actually a very, very special bringing together of some very strong women, about 27 women and 3 men from memory. Um,
yeah.
and it's that kind of bond that I'm keen to make sure I replicate through the work I do now, because I mean, crikey, we speak to each other, see each other several times a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating that it was so heavily uh, biased
Mm,
towards or populated by women. Was it the
yeah.
language part?
I think
What
it
do you
must
think
be
that
the
was?
language part. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
interesting.
Okay, so we will segue now. Given that you did not go to that you did go to uni, and actually, I guess this will bring in some of your career story as well.
Mm.
So, what was it that prompted you to set up your solicitor apprenticeship practice?
So at the time, I had been practicing solicitor for about 25 years in a big international law firm.
Mhm.
Because of my lived experience of social mobility, I've been doing lots of social mobility type work for that law firm. I was, yeah, all sorts of things. And something that just really struck me on our social mobility working group was a comment I heard Sarah Atkinson of the Social Mobility Foundation say, which is lots of law firms do really fantastic outreach work
Yeah.
into schools, but does that actually translate into real jobs at your law
Mm.
firm? And it did, in an ad hoc way and in small numbers, but I just felt a little bit uncomfortable. So um, I suggested that perhaps this law firm might like to introduce the solicitor apprenticeship route to qualification. And fortuitously, the graduate recruitment partner, as he was known then, but is now, of course, early careers partner,
Yeah.
was a friend, and he'd had the same idea. And so,
Mm.
and it was a meeting of minds. So I asked for a secondment for a whole year into his team, and we worked
Wow.
together to launch it. And it was kind of a thing in sort of the legal sector, because I personally don't like the terminology, but it was the first magic circle law firm to launch
Yeah.
solicitor apprenticeships, and it got a lot of attention in the press, a lot of attention
Yeah.
from clients.
Yeah.
And also, while I was doing that, I was working on the government commissioned City of London, City of London Corporation socio-economic diversity task force. And
Yeah.
while that was concentrating on progression of talent at a senior level, just like I'm doing in this podcast, I kept shoehorning the conversation back to
Yeah.
apprenticeships, and persuaded them to put an appendix in the recommendations report, which I'm really proud about, actually.
Mm.
And it was all about working together and progress together. And I just thought, I think maybe I should leave this law firm that I've loved for 25 years and
Yeah.
go and help spread the word. So, with their blessing, that's what I'm now doing. Although,
Wow.
ironically, they're now one of the 5 spearhead firms that I'm working with. So, I'm kind of there again all the time anyway,
Uh,
working with that graduate recruitment partner.
and I guess having been a practicing solicitor for a couple of decades, for a quarter of a
Yeah,
century,
thanks, Tony.
yeah, just well, I think I think it's really interesting because people might see, like, they'll see what you do today, and they'll see like the passion you have for it, and they might like, well, how is she so connected? How are all these things happening? How does she know these things? And I think I'd love to know a little bit about, what was that experience like actually working within a practice, working at that level for so long, and then starting kind of afresh.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, lots of people do say this to me, just kind of as a general point. How do you know so many people? How have you got so many interesting friends? And it
Yeah.
always comes down to the same thing: just be kind to people, and
Mm.
good things happen. So I think all the way up. I've just been kind and normal. And actually, my working class background really helps with that, because I think it helps us to relate to everybody and treat everyone with kindness and respect. So anyway, that's just a little general point. But when I, yeah, of course, when I joined the city law firm when I was young, even though I'd been to university, I still didn't really get it. And my friends, and again, they're all very, very good friends, close friends. So the trainee solicitors that I started with on my first day, 27th of February, 1960, sorry, not 1966. Wow.
What?
1996. I had this, it's so sweet. I had like this little velvet Alice band, because I thought that's what posh girls did, which they all found, like looking back, hilarious, because I'm just not the kind of person that wears an Alice band.
The velvet Alice band.
No,
Yeah.
it's not really me. But that's what I all this kind of like trying to fit in, and
Yeah.
and as the Bridge Group's done studies on, that trying to assimilate to the dominant culture is exhausting, actually. And I have the privilege of being white, so it's less exhausting for me than other categories of people covered by studies by the Bridge Group and books. I'm sure you're familiar with Louise Ashley's book, Highly Discriminating. That's another book that looks about how exhausting it is to assimilate to a dominant culture. So yeah, it's not easy. But what I will say is all city law firms are really, really, really trying to make things better. They are.
Yeah. And how do you, so you said you were seconded for a year, you sort of worked on the program, you helped to make changes to the City of London. There's
Law
another word.
Society.
Law
Oh no, the
Society.
task force.
The task force, so you've done
Yeah.
all of that work. How did you kind of, well, maybe I'll ask a question that's perhaps more geared towards actually helping people who are looking to follow a career in the sector.
Yeah.
How do you find the young people that are in like those cold spots, for example, that firms wouldn't traditionally hire from, or young people who wouldn't traditionally be exposed to this as a career option? How do you reach them? How does the program make these things happen?
So that is a huge question and the key question. So personally, I will have my own ways to do it, but I always recommend working with professional outreach organisations and turning to what's taking up 95% of my time at the moment, the work we're doing as the City of London Law Society collaboration, and that's 50 city law firms all working together. We have 9 work streams, and one of them is outreach into schools, and I asked to lead that one myself because I feel so strongly about it. And so what do? We're doing 3 different prongs of work. One, I sent out an RFP exercise to all the professional outreach organisations. And when I say professional, they can be charities, not-for-profits, or in a couple of cases, companies. And their whole business or venture is to identify state schools and identify high achieving young people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and they all measure on slightly different measures, but mostly under the Social Mobility Commission recommended 4 measures. And then they will use motivational statements, predicted A-level grades, and sort of funnel that talent towards all the different law firm opportunities. So yes, I now have a document produced, which is actually going under document production right now, I'm pleased to say. So that's going to be sent to all the 50 law firms, because actually it's not easy to find this information. I mean, the poor year 13s, I mean, it's much harder for them, but even for the law firms, that's what we're trying to do, consolidate everything together. So that's step 1. But step 2, before you do that deep dive into schools, bearing in mind schools, particularly state schools, are very time and resource pressed. We need to access the year 12s and year 13s, and indeed younger, where they are. So that is quite obviously on TikTok and Instagram and all those channels. So we have engaged somebody, a couple of organizations, to help us do that, like in a really Gen Z appropriate way, not old people
Yeah.
like me pretending I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then last of all, we'll do hopefully a big in-person event. So that's what's keeping me busy at the moment, actually. It's all about outreach, because, you know, you would have seen articles like that City AM article this week that said degree apprenticeships tend to be monopolised by the middle classes. And
Yeah.
I'm all about keeping those sharp middle class elbows off my solicitor
Yeah.
apprenticeship spots.
It's but I think it is it's fascinating. Like I am, as you know, I'm sort of fascinated just by this and careers, behaviors, because I like you know, I've grown up without access to opportunity, found my way. And but for me personally, as a parent, I am in a position where I am
Mm,
well connected.
mm.
I am very aware of what the opportunities are. But then our secondary school sent an email to parents about work experience and said it always works better if it's through a family friend.
Oh my
And
goodness.
and I've used this as an exercise to speak to my children and say, let me tell you that I know people that are doctors of science. I don't know medical doctors, but I've got a list of professions of people that I now count as, you know, all my friends have all these professions. And yet there will be children who live in the same village as me who have
Mm.
none of that.
Yeah.
So it is knowing or thinking about how do you reserve and this is how you bypass some of that sharp elbowedness is by saying, let's meet those young people where they are
Yeah.
versus where their parents are going to go, oh yeah, I know
Yeah.
someone that works there.
Yeah. 100%. Well, luckily, all the law firms now are so clued up in terms of their apprenticeship opportunities that no one is going to get an apprenticeship opportunity via connections. Of that, I am very certain. But taking it the next level down, are the middle classes without more likely to be more aware of the
Mm.
opportunities? Yeah. And that's a real problem, I think, and it's something that a key problem that this city century collaboration that I'm working on with Patrick McCann is seeking to fix, basically, because even something as simple as, you know, there are some very good organizations like Amazing Apprenticeships, I'm sure you're familiar with, and Not Going to Uni, and UCAS
Yeah.
itself, of course, with all the new developments that are coming down the line with, you know,
Mm.
parity and opportunities appearing on the same screen side by side. But the fact remains, at the moment, there's no one place where you can go and see all the solicitor apprenticeship opportunities in one place. So it can come down to just Googling law firm names. Who knows how to Google a law firm name if you don't know what the law firms are, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I've
Exactly.
discovered a whole raft in intellectual property law. Never heard of
Ooh.
them, but they're hundreds of years old.
I
I'm
know.
like,
Fabulous
what?
names, haven't they?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we're trying to sort of get around that problem, because if you've got loads of social and cultural capital and you've got a mum or a mum's mate, and you can say, oh, can you just tell me, like, let me know, like, who are the top 10 biggest firms who
Mm,
might offer solicitor apprenticeships, and then you Google it and you'll get your way in the end. But that's just not fair. And it's
mm.
also a very, you know, it's not like UCAS where you can just put your information in once and it's going to get better in the future. But at the moment, you have to apply to every single law firm individually. It's very time consuming.
Ah.
Um, and so, yeah, it's a problem we need to get around. But so you ask
And
very pertinent questions, Tony.
well, I'm a very curious person, and I think, and actually, in discussing this with some of my friends, because let's say, and I guess it's about thinking about what the program is tailored to do. So let's say you have a young person that has come from a very settled background, you know, financially comfortable, but university isn't for them.
Mm-hmm.
How do those young people also access
No, they are
apprenticeships?
welcome. Of course, they're
Yeah.
welcome, because something that I've come to know and understand much better, having made friends with so many wonderful solicitor apprenticeships, is they're very keen for this route
Mm,
into the profession not to be seen as inextricably linked to low socioeconomic background, because it's not. It's just a way to make sure that anybody can access law.
right.
Um, and actually, I think it's really healthy that in every intake of solicitor apprenticeships, there may be a couple of middle class kids who just want to get on and work faster, of course,
Yeah.
and who realise it's the best way to get experience.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but what there is something wrong with, in my personal view, is that all those opportunities are taken by the middle
Yeah.
classes, and you know, and the kind of issues that the Sutton Trust have written about by, you know, decreasing amount of working class people being able to access these degree apprenticeships. That can't be right.
No, no. And something we spoke about when we were arranging our interview, our podcast episode,
Oh,
was
interview.
interview
Chat.
conversation. Yeah, it's a conversation, isn't it? Is, and correct me if I've got this wrong, but I seem to remember you saying that in outside of the city of London, solicitor apprenticeships have, do exist in smaller law firms. Would that be
Yes,
right?
it's
Yeah.
absolutely right. And they were first to do it as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, there have been some London law firms that have done it from the beginning, but there are many more outside London. And so what's really wonderful, again, in the name of collaboration and generosity of spirit, is they've been very generous in sharing with us that their experience. So there's a Northeast collaboration, for example, and the managing partner for that firm's been very generous in saying, "Oh, this is how I did it," and he's lent us even one of his solicitor apprentices for what we call our solicitor apprentice strategy sounding board, or SAS for short.
SAS.
SAS,
Nice.
I know. So we have
Yeah.
20 young people, yeah, solicitor apprentices on that.
Yeah.
From years 1 to 6,
Mhm.
and they offer us advice because it's really key. You know, their voice has got to be central. So yes, we don't just have London voices on our spearhead group. We've got people from outside London as well, because we're all learning together.
Yeah. And what would a solicitor apprenticeship look like if I was if you were to present it to me as a young person going, I think I want to go into law?
Yeah.
What sounds like 6 years? How does it work?
It is 6 years. So what you would do, in common with other apprenticeships, you have 20% off the job, so learning, and 4 days in the office working. And your off the job learning in the first 4 years will give you a law degree, exactly the same, well, not quite exactly the same law degree as me, because I had law with French law, but if I didn't have the French bit, it would be a Stanford, properly prestigious law degree. And then in the last 2 years of those 6 years, solicitor apprentices take the solicitor's qualifying exam, or shortened to SQE, which now every single route into the profession will do. So people will have heard about people talking about the GDL and the LPC for law. They're going out the window and everybody's doing the SQE. So it's really nice. Everyone will be taking the same professional exams now. Yeah.
Ah,
So
right.
it's a really big thing. It's another thing hugely in favour of the solicitor apprenticeship route. And from the solicitor apprentice's point of view, other things in favour are obviously no student debt, because all the training for those 6 years is paid by the apprenticeship levy, and their salary is paid by the law firms. So no debt, very decent salary. And when you qualify, you have 4 years more experience than your traditional
Yeah.
graduate peers. It's a no-brainer,
Well, yeah,
in my
it is.
humble opinion.
Yeah. And what kind of because you say you had that specialization of French law as well. If you were doing a solicitor apprenticeship, what kind of caseloads or things might you get involved in when you're very early in career like that?
Well, if you speak to the solicitor apprentices that I know, they will say, really, you know, we don't need to be regarded any differently. We're just a bit younger than the standard trainee solicitor. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's not a paralegal role. It's just a younger version of a trainee solicitor. And
Right.
and something that surprised me, as much of an advocate as I am for this route, is law firms are all about wanting to impress and please and do a good job for their clients, of course.
Yeah.
And they send traditional trainee solicitors on client secondments. And I have learned that solicitor apprentices are going on clients' comments as young as year 2. That's all the proof you need, right? If they rate these
Wow.
solicitor apprentices enough to send them to their highly valued, highly priced clients, like, you know, top banks, etc., top
Yeah.
corporates, they rate
Yeah.
them. They've already proved themselves by year 2. It just makes my heart sing.
Wow.
Yeah.
No,
Wow.
no pressure. No pressure.
But they're also brilliant. There's no pressure. They
Yeah,
love it. They
yeah,
absolutely love it.
yeah. But I think it is that and I did the Prime
Oh, yes.
conference,
Yeah.
their
Yes,
10th
you did, didn't you?
anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd shared a personal story in that where one of my brother's partners became a mum very, very young, very 17 or something. And I remember her, she got really upset and she said she wanted to be, which wanted to be a lawyer. So that was what she said to me. She said, I wanted to be, and I just want to help people. But there was no way for her to find a route in.
Mm.
And kind of knowing that this program exists, it sort of, for me, it feels like it's for her, for people
Yeah.
that are like, I want to do this, but I don't know how.
Yeah. And it accommodates so many different people. And I'd like to come on to like the benefits for the law firms as well as for the
Yeah,
solicitor apprentices. But
yeah,
for example, care leavers who
yeah.
don't have that fallback position. So one of
Mm,
our SAS members, solicitor apprentice strategy sounding board members, it is a care leaver. And it's incredible, you know, just
mm,
totally financially independent, smashing it out of the park.
yeah.
And I know Amazing Apprenticeships do loads of good work supporting care leavers and care experienced people into apprenticeships. And
Mm,
also something I've learned, again, from one of our SAS members and also from the London Apprenticeship Network, Ambassador Network, is that apprenticeships can be particularly useful for aspiring solicitors with Muslim faith for a
oh,
number of reasons.
yeah.
For example, not taking on debt,
Yes,
and
of
not being
course.
too
Yeah,
far away from home in the
yeah,
case of females. And so I just love how inclusive this route is.
yeah,
And of course, that comes on to the advantages for the law firms. So
yeah,
it's not just about increasing socioeconomic diversity, it's genuinely about bringing a true diversity of thought and an innovation of spirit, which can just as much be related to age as any other diverse
yeah.
characteristic. And I've spoken to countless very senior partners who say, oh my goodness, they're like a breath of fresh air in law
Mm,
firms, like cutting a bright line through traditional talent routes. And just everybody's so full of joy and excitement. It's just
mm.
such a pleasure to be in this world.
It's awesome. So, how can people get involved? Joe, tell us how.
How can people get
How?
involved? Well, they can follow for a start the City of London Law Society Training Committee LinkedIn account,
Yeah.
because most of the good work we are doing is under the auspices of the City of London Law Society, and in
Mhm,
particular the Training Committee. Subcommittee of that, and that's chaired, as I've mentioned his name before, by Patrick McCann, and I'm a member of that committee. So
mhm,
you can stay up to date until we do our formal launch in June.
mm.
So look out
Yeah.
in the legal press in June. Hopefully the broadsheets, who knows, Tony? Sky's the limit. Got to aim
Wow.
high.
Yes.
So yes, follow
Yeah.
that LinkedIn account, follow Instagram accounts. You could follow JH Solicitor Apprenticeships, which is my professional account. And for young people, aspiring solicitor apprentices who might be listening, I only advise law firms. You know, I don't pretend to be the best person to advise aspiring solicitor apprentices, but there are some amazing Instagram accounts out there. For example, by two young women who I'm very good friends with now. So Holly Moore, who was the very first in-house solicitor apprentice to qualify, and of course the fact that she has qualified, she's been through the whole 6 years, she can
Yeah.
offer advice on everything. And her Instagram account is at that law blog. And the other person is Maya Trafford, who I'm actually speaking with tomorrow at the Legal Cheek Legal EdCon conference.
Yeah.
And her handle, I think one says, on Instagram is @mylegalcareer. So they're two really useful Instagram accounts to follow. And I just want to say, actually, this time last year, Maya spoke on a panel about solicitor apprenticeships at the Legal EdCon. And she's speaking again this year, but as well, in 1 year, the subject of solicitor apprenticeships is promoted to the keynote of the entire full-day conference.
Awesome.
How cool is that?
That is.
I need to write the speech after I finish speaking. It's fine. I've still got 24 hours.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Well, I don't know if this is food for your speech or your planning or not.
Tell me.
I would like to ask you, based on the fact that you have children, because I know you have children, how has your experiences and what you do today, how does that influence the way in which you talk to your children about what comes next for them, the routes that they might like to take?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I am extremely lucky in that none of my 4 sons want to be a lawyer. So mum's a lawyer, dad's a lawyer. Well, I'm not a practicing lawyer anymore. They don't want to be. And because actually I might be a bit conflicted, in all seriousness about advising on the solicitor apprenticeship route, given what I've said about sharp middle class elbows. Also recognizing that it's fine to have a mix of different socioeconomic backgrounds.
Yeah.
But what is really nice is, the first one has already left home, but my son who's in year 12, we do talk a lot about apprenticeships, and probably a little bit like you, Tony, I'm always on the back of the school saying, are you covering degree apprenticeships in your careers day? Can I come and just talk about apprenticeships? And have you invited all the local schools so that everyone can benefit from this? Because I think we might share this pet hate about when schools talk about the academic results for the year and they say, oh, and this number of children are going to Oxford or Cambridge, and this number of children are going to... What are you saying about all the amazing apprenticeship, whether they're degree apprenticeship or not, positions that they are... I keep hearing a stat that it's harder to get a solicitor apprenticeship now than it is to get into Oxbridge. These schools should be celebrating that.
Yeah. Oh, no, I agree. Well, a friend of mine said she thinks, I think schools are measured on added value. And I had sent an email saying, I want to know what value you add to every pupil. Whatever they need, however they need to get there. Because we do. It is that thing of I'm happy for all the children that get to do what it is they want to do. But we don't need to be told which children have gone to Oxbridge unless it's sort of our kids, and we really, and that's, do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Who cares?
Feels peculiar. Yeah, I know. That's what I just should have said in the first place. I don't care. I actually don't care. It means nothing to me because that is not what my children aspire to, want to do, doesn't suit them. So why is the school saying that we should all go, oh, yay, well done. Well done for the school. Yeah. But that would make me very bitter and I don't know, cynical or something. Or but
no, it's all about celebrating all. Celebrating all.
Yeah. It's and we know, there will be like the kids that set up their own businesses.
Their own charities.
Yeah.
My mentee set up a charity. I mean, amazing.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
and we all measure success in different ways, I think.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
It is. Just, just reining myself in a little bit, remembering getting that email and going, right. Any parting words of wisdom or what actually, here's a question for you.
I'm glad you've changed that because I don't have any parting words of wisdom.
No words of wisdom. You can need that for the end of your speech.
Keep that one on my sleeve.
The question that I had for you was, you have started your own business, haven't you?
Yes, I don't view it as a business, but it is a business at the end of the day. Yeah.
You started it on your own. What and you did a kind of a switch after
Mm.
having, your kind of successful career part one, and you're doing a new thing. What advice would you have for people that are maybe looking to make a change, might feel a little bit afraid to do so?
Take the leap, you won't regret it.
Good. Perfect.
Equally, checking my privilege
Mm.
that after 25 years of working, I have some financial stability to be able to take that leap. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wise
And also
words.
do what you care about, because every morning I wake up so excited,
Mm.
and surround yourself with people with the same values as you as well. So important. Not always
Yeah.
easy, but really important.
It's not always easy.
No.
And
I'm
it is
very lucky.
important.
I'm very lucky in that I'm working all day, every day with this amazing person who I've mentioned a few times called Patrick McCann. And we're
Mm.
very different in lots of ways, but our values are so aligned.
Mm.
And it's brought real joy into my professional life working with him. I'm very lucky.
Awesome. I'm also looking him up on LinkedIn now.
Oh, he
So
loves a bit of LinkedIn.
the LinkedIn. And I'll even ask him to connect so it doesn't just say Tony Kent looked at your profile.
Yeah, you can
Um,
say, "Oh, I'm the reason that we had to pause recording your webinar with Joe because we're going to start part 2 in 10 minutes now." I said, "No, Tony is non-cancelable. Sorry, no."
oh, right. Well, in which case, I'll let you go and get ready for that. Joe, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you for your
Oh,
time.
ditto, ditto. It was a real honor to chat. Thanks, Tony.
Thanks.